Welcome to No Bias MMA. My name is Dominic Lay. Um, I've been wanting to do this podcast for a very long time. Obviously, the setup is not great, but it's only going to get better from here. Sound quality is going to be down. I'm going to work on all that, and I've already ordered some stuff, but it is going to be a process to get it to where I want it to be. But this is what I got to work with for right now. But yeah, I just want to talk about some fights. That's why I'm doing this now and not until I get the equipment. So much stuff has been going on, and I'm just excited. And like I said before, the podcast name is No Bias MMA. My name is Dominic, and I'm just here to talk fights with you all. Got all kinds of stuff to talk about today. And in the future, I mean, this whole year is stacked. And what a year to be doing this. We just had UFC 284, Volk Islam. Insane main event, insane co-main event. Volk Islam was a barn burner. I mean, who expected? I think most of us expected Islam to just be too big for Volk. That's surely what I expected, and be able to hold him down a lot more than what he did. And he wasn't able to do that, and that surprised the hell out of me. Volk popped up every single time, just about, besides in the fourth round when Islam got his back. But wow, I mean, I'm impressed by both of them. Islam, his striking looked so crisp, so sniper-like, just immaculate. Looked great. And that was the vision we all had, was if it's on the feet, Volk will have the edge. If it's on the ground, Islam would have the edge. Which I do feel like Islam had the edge on the ground. But Volk's defensive wrestling surprised us all. And Islam's stand-up surprised us all, because I actually thought Islam won the striking exchanges on the feet. And there's a lot of controversies on who won what rounds. I see the case for 4 rounds to Islam. I mean, I think the fight was so competitive, and people did not expect it to be that competitive, that people are giving Volk the win, and I don't think that is valid to do. I do think it was close, but I think, like not too long ago, which the judges got this one wrong, but the fight I'm about to bring up, which is Strickland versus Cannonier, I feel like there was a case either way in that fight for Strickland or Cannonier to win all 5 rounds. Either way you looked at it. But in this fight, I thought it was a clear Islam majority of the fight. At least bare minimum 3 rounds. And I do think you can give Volk 2 rounds, but no more than that. And that's just what it is. That takes nothing away from either of them. That takes nothing away from Volk and how amazing he looked. He went up a weight class, fought the bigger man, fought the stronger man, and put up a hell of an account for himself. So I don't think that's any knock on Volk. He fought a great fight. Islam fought a great fight. And I think people are putting Islam on this pedestal because Khabib dominated everyone. Everyone he fought, he dominated. And their training partners, pretty much family. And I think people hold Islam to that regard. And I don't think that's fair. Islam's his own fighter. And what he did Saturday night was beyond impressive. He just beat the #1 pound-for-pound fighter. Going up a weight or not, give Islam his due, because that deserves respect, what he just did. And that's that. It was a great fight, a competitive fight, a close fight, but there's just nothing else there. Islam won the fight. I don't understand all these people claiming that Volk won I mean, I have no problem with let's do a rematch. The fight was great. I mean, I'm sure the UFC have other plans at the moment, but I don't think they'd be against a rematch. Um, it it was the fight was impressive, so I don't see why they would have a problem doing that again in the future. But I don't think there's a need for it. Like it must happen. Uh, as a fan, I would like to see it happen, but I don't think it has to. I think Islam won. I just think it was a lot more competitive than people expected, and I did score the fight for Islam, just to make that clear. And if they were to fight again, okay, so if we are, let's say they do, the UFC makes that fight. I say a lot of people, including the odds makers, are going to maybe not favor Volk, but that line isn't going to be a plus 300. We're going to look at minus 150 over plus 120, I'd say. Like it's going to be close. Not pick 'em, but close. Maybe Islam 2-1. But I was talking to a buddy earlier about this, and he favors Volk in the rematch. I don't see it that way. I think Islam, I mean, let's not forget what he just did. 20-hour flight to Perth and had to get acclimated for the fight. And that's a lot, man. That's a lot. He went into Volk's territory and got the job done. No matter what anyone says, he got it done. And I think the next time they fight, he will be a lot more prepared. They have felt each other, which benefits both. It does benefit both, but I think that camp is just an extraordinary camp. And I think anything, but you can say the same about Volk, so I'm kind of contradicting myself. I don't see Volk. That was his shot. Like Taila Santos against Valentina Shevchenko. That was her shot. If they rematch Valentina and Santos, Valentina's going to put work on her. And that's how I see this here. I see Islam shoring up all the holes that Volk just exploited in this first fight. I just don't think them holes will be there. I think Volk focused so much on the wrestling, and as he should have, not knowing before, but he got started late. Once he realized that, man, I can deal with this strength and the positioning and the balance of Islam, he should have took off. There should have been no waiting period there, and I think he lost his shot. He should have, in that second, third, fourth round, done what he's talking about. He should have done now. But he didn't, and I think if they fight again, that won't be there. And I do think there's a reason that he didn't do the things he said he wanted to, and it's because he couldn't. He's fighting Islam Makhachev. Come on now. You know, and I also think Islam focused so much on, I just think they both overthought each other's strengths, and there was a lot of mistakes made at both ends, and I think they both made the equal amount of mistakes and overcompensated for each other's strengths, the exact same, and Islam came out on top this time. So the pound for pound debate. So Ariel Helwani's podcast, the MMA Hour, they was speaking on that today, and they made a really good point. So pound for pound, when you think pound for pound, you think everyone is the same exact weight class, the same reach, the same height. There is no weight class. And so if you put it like that, Volk just went up in weight. And even though Islam won the fight, who should be pound for pound number one? Usually the consensus is If you beat him, you take that spot. But in this position, Islam went up in weight. So if Kamaru Usman was number one, and Leon beats Kamaru, which he did, Leon takes Kamaru's place. They fought in equal weight, 170, so Leon takes that spot. But with Volk coming up in weight, there's a debate there. Does Islam take Volk's pound for pound ranking, even though Volk did exactly what pound for pound means, and that's go up in weight? So the way I have it, my number one would be Volk still. Even after Islam defeats him, I still have Volk as the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. Islam at number two. And I personally, that's the thing. Like they said on the MMA Hour, it's everybody's own outlook on what the number one pound for pound fighter means. Like everyone has their own idea. There's nothing set in stone. There's not a rule book to it. So like I just said, yes, the consensus says if you beat him, you take that spot. But I cannot put Leon Edwards above Kamaru Usman. So that's my 1 vote, 2 Islam, 3 Kamaru. And that's just how I have mine. But we should talk about what's next for these two guys. All right, so we got Islam would be, I mean, there is the possibility of the rematch, which I think makes great sense. You know, if that's the route the UFC wants to take. I don't see that happening. But say they do, then there's always that. But this is what I think is most likely to happen. And I think you're going to have Beneil Dariush and Oliveira fight that fight. And the winner will fight Makhachev. And who I see that being is Beneil Dariush. I love Oliveira. I love him. I think he's amazing. Striking in the right matchup is insane. His ground game is beautiful. That's what the commentators always say. It's perfect. He doesn't make many mistakes. But Benny D, man, people have to put respect on this man's name. He is. I truly think that is Islam's hardest test. So look at what Volk just did for Islam. I've been saying this. Beneil Dariush presents so many problems for Islam. Now, I don't know if his strengths are greater than Islam's. I'm just saying he presents a lot of problems. He has great wrestling. Not as great of wrestling as Islam, but when it comes to grappling, I do favor Dariush. And I think Dariush is striking. Go watch that Gamrot fight. It's up to par. And I think they have a great fight. I think it's a very close fight. And that's the fight I want to see. I don't think we needed to see Oliveira versus Dariush. I think we could have went straight in. Dariush, right after this fight, Ramadan's coming up, so Islam has Ramadan. And then we can go, when he comes back, his first fight back can be Dariush. I had no problem with that. I don't see, that's the kind of person Dariush is. He did not have to take this fight. But what's he going to do? He's going to go and fight the number 1 ranked fighter in the lightweight division, which is Charles Oliveira. That's why I love Benny D. He's on a non-fight win streak, I'm pretty sure. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a non-fight win streak, which is just in the lightweight division. Think of all the killers in that division. It's insane. And, yeah, I'm excited for that fight. And then we got Volk. We know who he's fighting next, which he's calling for that rematch with Makhachev. But he's fighting Yair next, unless they do the rematch. But I see that that's the whole point of the interim title is, so Volk has his next man. And speaking of how I just said, Beneil Dariush is Makhachev's toughest fight. I've been saying Yair is the toughest fight style, even tougher than Max for Volkanovski. It's just the range that Yair can keep. Like, okay, Max to flow into combination, he does his best work when he gets off 1-2s and can follow that up into the 3, the 4, the 5. He long combinations. You're not getting that off on Volkanovski. He's going to stop you right in your tracks. That's just what he does. Yair don't need them long combinations. He'll throw them, but he's okay picking you apart from range. And that, it's just, man, that's going to be an insane fight. It's I do see Volk winning, but I think that is very competitive. And I think Volk has to use his wrestling to win that fight. And, I mean, can we just talk for a second about Yair and what he did to Josh Emmett? Josh Emmett is a killer. He has power. And he just made Emmett look like he didn't belong out there. For the interim title, I mean, that's what you want to see out of a fighter like Yair. Every time we see him, he's getting better. And it's impressive. And, man, I'm just, I'm really looking forward to that fight. And I think it's a big test for Volkanovski. And you got to consider, is he going to be motivated for this fight? He just went up and challenged the 155 champion and gave him a run for his money. Does Yair wake him up in the morning? Does that get his blood going? Does that make him want to bust his ass in the gym? Does that make him want to train for this fight? Is he going to sleep on Yair? If he does, that's a big mistake is all I'm going to say. But respect to Volk, respect to Yair, respect to Islam, because, man, they made that UFC 284 card insane. So hats off to them. And the news I woke up to this morning, let me get a drink real quick. We got Dan Hooker coming out saying that, okay, so let me give you a little bit of background. So IV use, when you cut weight for MMA competition, some fighters like to use, in the past, IVs to rehydrate because, you know, they just drain themselves. I mean, that's what they're doing, is sucking all the water out of their body. And sometimes after they cut the weight, they'll rehydrate themselves using IVs. That's what they've done in the past. That is illegal now. That is considered, that's a USADA ban. Dan Hooker, okay, the Volkanovski went on the MMA Hour, and they filmed Super Bowl Sunday. So that was the day after the fight. And Volkanovski was kept on talking about IV use, IV use, IV use. And we was like, you know, there was no context to it. It was just like, okay, it's a little weird, but no one really thought anything of it. And then today, we wake up to news of Dan Hooker calling Islam a cheating rat and saying all this stuff. And apparently Islam hired a nurse to put an IV in Islam to help him rehydrate before the fight. And if that's true, we're looking at a hefty suspension for Islam. Like big suspension, like taking your belt away type suspension. And also, if it's not true, someone needs to be held accountable, because you can't just put out stuff like this. So for me, I'm just the type, I'm not going to go in too big on it, because I do personally think, man, there needs to be proof for some accusation like this. But with that being said, I just thought it was something to mention here, because if the weight cut was that bad and you did have to rehydrate, and Volk did that, even with Islam necessarily cheating. I mean, that makes even what he did even more impressive. So I just thought it was worth mentioning. But I just don't really fall for stuff like this unless there is proof. So Dan Hooker needs, like they said earlier on, they need to come out with some proof before you're putting stuff like this out. But it is worth mentioning. I mean, that's some serious accusations right there. And then we had, just real quick, I do want to touch on that performance. Yair just looks so damn good. I mean, wow. I truly was so impressed with that, because we got to think, we last seen him against Ortega, and that was the doctor stoppage, which I counted that as a win for Yair. He caused that injury. So, but I mean, even from then, how he started that fight, he was lighting Ortega up. And I seen improvement into this fight. Yeah, he was cautious of the power, but it did not deter him. He was in there, he was fighting, he was going straight at him, and he just wasn't going to be denied on the night. So I know I just talked about this, but I had to shout him out one more time, because just damn, who doesn't love Yair? I mean, that man, I mean, I think he's he's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. I mean, he's insane. But shout out to him. And then Jack Maddalena. Okay, so going into this fight, I thought he was way too big of a favorite over Randy Brown, someone who is, he's not top 10, but he's proven. He's a vet. He's fought people like Francisco Trinaldo. I mean, we're talking about killers. I mean, Randy Brown, to me, he's proven. We know where he stands, and we know he's right around that top 10 to 15 ranking. And, I mean, he comes out, and what's he doing? I mean, he's putting the jab on Maddalena. He's, I mean, he's looking great. He's looking great. He starts the fight out great. But, man, there's just a confidence in Maddalena that, like, he knows something that we don't know. And I think the very first punch he threw, he put Randy Brown on his back. He has that power that will put you out. And he just kept a high guard, and he let Randy pepper him, because he knew, man, I'm going to get close, and I'm going to touch you, and you're going to fall. And that's exactly what happened. And he gets on his back and chokes him out. Man, he's the real fucking deal. That's for sure. And super impressive to do that to Randy Brown. I mean, the ceiling of Jack Maddalena looks super high. And if you're a Maddalena fan, you're buzzing. So shout out to him. Tafa Porter. I mean, I didn't understand. I mean, I'm all about giving the lower level fighters some shine. And on a card like this, that's what you want. I mean, for the fans, it's not so great, but for a Justin Tafa or a Parker Porter, that's the highlight of their career. So, and then when you look at it like that, it's super cool. And just Tafa went out there and he made easy work of Porter. I mean, there's so, he's fought the Jared Van Deras of the world, Chase Shermans, he's going to the decision with these guys. I actually favored Parker Porter in this fight, and I think the line was about a pickle. And Tafa slept him. Quit. So shout out to him. That was a great win. Crute Minifield. We had I think that was the lowest IQ fight I've ever seen in my life. That one was question marks in my head. You had Jimmy Crute, and I think we're learning a lot more about where Jimmy Crute is actually at. He comes out and he double legs Minifield. Minifield gets up, and he kind of just he made so many just questionable decision. He gassed out in the first round. You can tell in the second it was a wrap for him. He had nothing left. And that's what confuses me. That's where the lack of IQ. I mean, his game plan. What was your game plan with Minifield? Because I'm a dad that works, is starting a podcast, and I'm off the couch. I know what my game plan would have been if I'm fighting Alonzo Minifield and I'm Jimmy Crute and I have Jimmy Crute's skill set. Okay, we're talking about Alonzo Minifield. He has great takedown defense, and even if you can get him down, you can't really hold him down. And as you've seen in the fight, Jimmy Crute had a hard time getting position on Minifield. So what do? You want to press him against the fence. Make it a board. I get it. You're in Perth. You're in Australia. Your hometown. But, man, you need a win. You need a win. The Anthony Smith fight, the Jamal Hill fight. Push him against the fence. Grind him out. Make it boring. And prepare for that. To go 3 hard rounds with somebody. You can't bank on getting them out of there in the first round. Man, when you're fighting at this level, that's just not going to happen every single time. And I think that's what he banked on. And Alonzo Minifield was still there in the second round. And then we get on the topic of Alonzo Minifield. Jimmy Crute was out on his feet. I'm talking about barely able to stand in that second and third round. And what does he do? He tries to wrestle Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute. Alonzo Minifield tried to wrestle Jimmy Crute. My mind was blown. It was a great fight for the fans, but I think IQ-wise, just very questionable on both fighters. And if I'm on either one of their teams, I'm pissed about both of their performances. And they're calling for a rematch, whatever. Just that's all I got to say about that fight. It was a draw. Alonzo Minifield should have won the fight. He kicked Crute in the nuts, so it didn't happen. Whatever. Let's move on. Keaton Rodriguez, amazing performance. That's the last person I want to shout out. Hell of a that's what you want to do on a pay-per-view that has eyes like this. You want to go out there and do what he did. Made short work of Shannon Ross, and that's what you do on a pay-per-view like this. That I mean, who knows how many pay-per-view buys it did, but you got Islam Makhachev, Volkanovski, pound for pound number 1 and 2, fighting for the belt. That's what you want to do on the prelims. That's what you want to do, because next time people's going to say, I remember that guy. He fought on the Volkanovski card, the Islam card. That's the dude that landed the head kick. Or you know what I'm saying? Like, that's exactly how you make a name for yourself in this sport. And hats off to him. But I think that's all I got for UFC 284. But I'm not going to stay on here too long, but I do want to talk about what we got coming up. And, I mean, this year is just stacked. We got John Jones, Cyril Gane, that card, Shevchenko's on that card versus Alexa Grasso. I mean, man, the what we have coming up is insane. It's we got Usman versus Edwards, Pereira versus Adesanya 2, 4 technically. I mean, we just got so much stuff coming up. I mean, we're spoiled this year as MMA fans, UFC fans. But I will say this, because I'll do a live stream and a breakdown later about this. But I will say that I do see Cyril Gane beating John Jones. Call it a hot take, call it what you will. But guys, we have to take into consideration that John Jones did not look great before this 3-year layoff. And I don't think you can have the highest expectations for him when he comes back. We know he's been busting his ass. But until I see it, I'm not going to bank on it. And Cyril Gane, I'm so impressed with him. I mean, look at like I said, or I didn't say, but I will say now, I thought Cyril Gane beat Francis Ngannou that might be the hottest take I ever say on here. But go rewatch the fight before you bash me or say whatever you will. Go watch Ciryl Gane versus Francis, and tell me, on the feet it was not even competitive. Francis did not land a shot, which that was the intrigue, right? If he does land the shot, we know what happens, and he didn't. He didn't land the shot, and it's not like he was technically just doing anything. Ciryl Gane was picking him apart. He was picking him apart, making him look silly, to be honest. And we seen Francis wrestle. If Francis is wrestling, that means he's in trouble. So I mean, that is one thing to consider. The scoring criteria is based on damage, right? Right. Okay. So when you look at the fight, yes, Francis got him down, and I do give 2 rounds to Francis of that fight. He held Ciryl down, but go to that 5th round. What happened? The 5th round starts. Ciryl Gane lands a few shots, but the few shots were significant because what else was landed during the round? All right, then Francis takes him down. What happened? 2 submission attempts by Ciryl Gane. Okay, and then we have the rest of the round, Francis Ngannou in top control over Ciryl Gane. So let's break down that round. What do we have? We had the few shots that happened on the feet by Ciryl Gane. 2 submission attempts by Ciryl Gane on the feet, on the ground, and then we have top control by Francis landing absolutely nothing. Who do you give that 5th round to? Ciryl Gane, in my opinion, won that fight. So, with that being said, what's Jones' path to victory? It's getting Ciryl to the ground, which I absolutely think he's going to try to do. But I don't think Ciryl Gane was expecting Ngannou to wrestle the way that he did. And I just, you got to think, someone at the caliber of Gane is going to sure up them hoes. He's going to work his ass off on what happened. You don't think he's expecting Jon Jones to wrestle? You'd be silly. And he doesn't have to learn how to offensively wrestle. He has to learn how to stuff takedowns. That's what he needs to do. How to, you know what I mean? Like, if he can stuff and just keep it on the feet, he wins this fight. Jon Jones does not want to be standing with Ciryl Gane for too long. Another hot take. I actually argued with a friend about this, debated. But I think Ciryl Gane picks Jon Jones apart, and that's truly how I see that. That's where my money will be, and maybe closer to time we see something that might change my mind. But like I said, until we see it, that's where I'm at. And yeah, we got a lot. I'm gonna do a whole breakdown of this upcoming pay-per-view. There's so much good stuff on there. I'm gonna save a lot of what I want to talk about for then. But the one more fight I just got to talk about, have to talk about. My country accent came out right there. I'm from Kentucky, so no one starts clowning me. But Fiziev versus Gaethje, that, I think that is the, I can't say that. I mean, definitely Islam Boke was the number one fight I was most excited about. And then it's obviously Jones, Gane, and now Fiziev Gaethje. That fight, man, they don't get better than that. And I'm super excited. I think Fiziev is just a horrible stylistic matchup for Gaethje. But can you really say that in the style that they're going to fight? I don't think either of them actually is a bad matchup for the other. But I just see Fiziev coming out on top. But like I said, I'll break all this down way more in depth. But that's all I got for you all today. Thank you. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next one.